So Apple just did something they've never done before. They split the iPhone launch calendar in half. And honestly, I almost scrolled past this, another analyst note, another timeline shuffle, whatever. But the more I looked at it, the more I realized this isn't a scheduling tweak. This is Apple quietly restructuring how iPhones get sold, and almost nobody is reading it correctly. Here's what happened. A Barclays analyst believes that if the iPhone Fold launches in 2026, it will be in December, months after the iPhone 18 Pro. Meanwhile, the more expensive iPhone 18 Pro and iPhone 18 Pro Max iPhones will launch in the fall of 2026 as usual, alongside the new foldable iPhone, but the more affordable iPhone 18 and iPhone 18e models won't come out until spring 2027. So let me get this straight. September gets the Pro, December might get the Fold, and the regular iPhone 18, that's a 2027 problem. Apple basically looked at its own product calendar and said, what if we just didn't do it all at once anymore? Like a student who realizes they can submit assignments across the whole semester instead of pulling one horrifying all-nighter, except this student is worth $3 trillion. Now, at first I thought, okay, another delay rumor. A note from Barclays analyst Tim Long, viewed by McRumors, suggests the iPhone Fold will release in December 2026. He offers no detail as to why it would come out 3 months after its announcement other than supply chain sources. That's it. That's the detail. Supply chain sources, 3 words doing a lot of heavy lifting. That's like saying sources say it'll rain without telling you whether they checked the forecast or just looked at a cloud. But here's where it gets more interesting. He's the only one saying this. The note also mentioned that there may be an iPhone 18 Plus in the spring, an equally unlikely claim. Both haven't been repeated by any other source. And when you look at this analyst's track record, he was previously with BMO Capital Markets, where he was wrong about iPhone 10 demand in 2018. So we're taking scheduling advice from someone whose last major iPhone prediction was incorrect. That's like getting driving directions from someone who's currently lost. You listen, but you keep Google Maps open. That said, and this is important, the idea itself isn't crazy. Because Apple has actually done this before. Apple has historically released radically new models 1 to 2 months after announcing the full lineup. The iPhone 10 in 2017 arrived in November. A year later, iPhone XR arrived in October. iPhone 14 Plus also arrived in October. Each of these years, other iPhone models were released in September as expected. So the playbook exists. Apple announces everything on stage in September, ships the Pro models immediately, and then the weirder, newer, more experimental device shows up a few weeks or months later. It's like showing up to the party on time, and then your more interesting friend arrives fashionably late and steals the room. If this is the case, we can still expect Apple to announce iPhone Fold alongside iPhone 18 Pro and iPhone 18 Pro Max in September. They'd just ship it later. You'd see it, want it, and then be told to wait, which is either brilliant marketing or emotional cruelty, depending on how badly you want a foldable. Now, here's the part that caught my attention. Even as the iPhone 18 Pro has begun leaking components, nothing of the sort has happened for the upcoming foldable iPhone. There's something odd about that. And that's not a throwaway observation. By March 2025, we had already seen photos of production molds, the camera bar, detailed schematics, CADs, and even dummy models of the iPhone Air. None of that has shown up for the iPhone Fold. That's a significant gap. Every iPhone that has launched on time has leaked by now. The iPhone 18 Pro, leaking on schedule. Colors, cameras, molds, all out there. The iPhone Fold, basically a ghost. Either Apple achieved a level of supply chain secrecy that would make the CIA jealous, or this thing isn't as far along as people think. Last week, we learned that the iPhone Fold design was about to hit a major production milestone. That's a good sign that the device is still on track for release this year, even if it's a few months behind the standard flagship models. The design also appears to be locked in as CAD files have surfaced this month. This aligns with previous design leaks that have turned out to be accurate. So the design is probably done. The question is whether production can actually ramp fast enough for September or whether December is the more realistic timeline. Think of it like this: the blueprints are finished, but the construction crew is still hiring. You're technically on track, but also technically not there yet. Now, let's zoom out and talk about what this staggered launch actually does strategically. Avoiding internal competition, launching the Fold later helps keep the spotlight on the Pro lineup first. A more strategic rollout, spreading releases across months, allows Apple to extend attention and sales over time. This is the part most people miss. If Apple drops the iPhone 18 Pro, Pro Max, and the Fold all on the same day, guess what happens? Every headline is about the Fold. Every YouTube thumbnail features the Fold. Every review is about whether the crease is visible. The Pro models become background noise in their own launch event. That's like throwing a birthday party for twins and only putting candles on one cake. The other twin notices. The other twin is the $1,199 Pro Max that funds Apple's entire operation. By staggering, Apple gives the Pro its moment. Then the Fold gets its own moment. Two news cycles, two waves of hype, two separate purchase decisions. That's not a delay, that's a content strategy with a supply chain attached to it. And there's another layer here that people really aren't talking about: the iPhone Air situation. The thin, light iPhone Air sold so poorly that Apple has decided to delay the launch of the next generation iPhone Air that was scheduled to come out alongside the iPhone 18 Pro. How poorly? Let me paint you a picture. Apple supplier Foxconn has reportedly dismantled all but 1.5 of its production lines for the iPhone Air, and all production is expected to be stopped at the end of the month. Luxshare, another supplier, stopped production at the end of October. 1.5 production lines, that's not a scaling back, that's a funeral with slightly optimistic attendance. So we're not shutting it down, we're just giving it a very long nap. And the numbers back it up. Just 6% of US iPhone shoppers surveyed by consumer intelligence research partners purchased the iPhone Air in the quarter ending in December, the phone's first full quarter of availability. By comparison, 22% bought the regular iPhone 17, 25% bought the iPhone 17 Pro, and 27% chose the pricey iPhone 17 Pro Max, 6%. The iPhone Air sold at 1/4 the rate of the Pro Max. That's not underperformance. That's a rounding error with a marketing budget. Apple spent years developing the thinnest iPhone ever, and the market collectively responded with, cool, anyway. Creating a super thin 5.6 millimeter iPhone required compromises, so the iPhone Air has a smaller battery and a single lens rear camera, but it still has a high price tag. Apple priced it starting at $999, and that appears to be more than customers are willing to pay for style without substance. The iPhone Air is only $100 cheaper than the $1,099 iPhone 17 Pro, which has a triple lens rear camera and much better battery life. That pricing gap is the whole story. Why would you pay $999 for one camera and less battery when for $100 more you get 3 cameras and actually make it to bedtime? That's like choosing the appetizer sampler over the full steak dinner when the price difference is a latte. Nobody does that. Nobody should do that. Now, here's the part that made me sit up. Apple is not going to write off the iPhone Air as it is essentially a technology exercise and a prototype en route to the foldable iPhone. The foldable iPhone will use many of the same materials, miniaturization techniques, internal components, batteries, and software optimizations as the iPhone Air. That reframes everything. The iPhone Air wasn't supposed to be a blockbuster. It was a dress rehearsal. Apple built a $999 tech demo, shipped it to millions of people, collected real-world data on thin form factors, battery behavior, and thermal management, and is now folding all of that literally into the iPhone Fold. The Air's failure is the Fold's R&D budget. Your $999 was a contribution to science. You're welcome. But it also explains why Apple might be cautious about the Fold's launch timing. They just watched an experimental product land with a thud. The last thing they want is to rush another experimental product and have it happen again, but except this time at $2,000. Speaking of price, multiple reports point to between $2,000 and $2,500 in the US, with UBS suggesting $1,800 to $2,000 and Fubon Research around $2,399. The most specific number we've seen, the foldable smartphone will purportedly be offered in 256 gigabyte, 512 gigabyte, and 1 terabyte options for $2,320, $2,610, and $2,900, respectively. $2,900 for a phone. That's not a phone. That's a mortgage payment that fits in your pocket. That's a device where dropping it doesn't just crack the screen, like it cracks your financial confidence. You don't buy a $2,900 phone. You enter a relationship with it. And this is where the strategic math gets interesting. It is entirely possible that Apple's delayed shipments for the iPhone Fold is a part of its staggered launch strategy to better manage the constrained supply of the next-gen A20 Pro chip, which is expected to power the iPhone Fold as well as the iPhone 18 Pro Duo. So both the Fold and the Pro models share the same chip. And Tim Cook had flagged the TSMC's choked capacity for advanced nodes and the ongoing memory upheaval as key concerns in a recent earnings call. If chip supply is constrained, who gets priority? The product that sells 70 million units or the product that sells to early adopters at $2,000? Apple's going to feed the Pro first. That's not favoritism, that's basic math. You don't put the limited ingredient in the dish nobody's ordering yet. Now, most rivals publicly rate their devices at around 200,000 folds. If Apple is targeting tighter tolerances or stronger ingress protection, qualification can stretch timelines. iOS would need thoughtful adaptations for app continuity, windowing, and split screen behaviors that feel as seamless as standard iPhones. Apple tends to hold features until they are polished across the ecosystem, which means alignment among internal teams, App Store partners, and accessibility frameworks before green-lighting mass market volumes. This is classic Apple. They don't ship it when it's done. They ship it when it's done and everything around it is done. The hardware can be ready, but if iOS doesn't handle the full transition smoothly, if apps don't behave correctly on two screen sizes, if the multitasking feels even slightly janky, that it stays in the lab, Samsung would ship it anyway and fix it in a software update. Apple would rather be late and polished, which is annoying, but also why people trust the product when it arrives. Barclays timeline offers a realistic lens on how Apple might debut a first-generation foldable. Tease it at the biggest stage, launch it when production is ready for discerning early adopters, and use the holiday spotlight to test the market before widening the ramp. And there it is. December isn't a delay. December is a soft launch. Apple announces in September, lets the hype build for 3 months, ships limited quantities to early adopters during the holiday season, and uses real-world feedback to scale production into 2027. That's not being behind schedule. That's being strategically patient, while everyone else interprets patience as failure. It's the corporate version of showing up late to the party and somehow making it look intentional. Now let's talk about the product that actually benefits from all of this chaos. The iPhone 18 Pro. With the foldable iPhone joining the Pro lineup, the September event could focus exclusively on Pro experiences, including advanced cameras, larger displays, and cutting-edge chips. If the Fold ships in December, the iPhone 18 Pro gets September entirely to itself. No split attention. No, but what about the Fold in every review? just pure, undiluted Pro coverage. The iPhone 18 Pro goes from being the supporting act to being the headliner, at least for 3 months. That's like your main competitor voluntarily sitting out the first quarter while you rack up sales unopposed. And for enthusiasts tracking the iPhone 18 Pro Max, the September 2026 window offers the earliest opportunity to upgrade to what promises to be Apple's most capable non-foldable smartphone yet. Most capable non-foldable smartphone yet. That's a sentence that sounds like a compliment until you realize it also means the best phone that doesn't do the new thing. But for 90% of buyers, that's exactly what they want. They want the best version of the thing they already understand, not a science experiment with a price tag that requires a moment of silence. Apple has had problems placing such special models on the market for a long time. First, the iPhone mini failed in generations 12 and 13, and more recently, the Plus model in 14, 15, and 16 has sold rather below average. Mini Plus Air. 3 attempts at a fourth iPhone, 3 different form factors, 3 different disappointments. Apple has been trying to find the fourth slot for half a decade and keeps striking out. It's like watching someone try to parallel park on the same street for 5 years straight. At some point, you just walk. The Fold is attempt number 4, and Apple knows the pressure is different this time because this one costs $2,000 and has a hinge. So here's what I think the real story is. Apple isn't delaying the Fold because they're behind. They're staggering it because they've learned painfully that experimental products need room to breathe. The iPhone Air taught them that launching too many things at once dilutes attention and confuses buyers. The Mini and Plus taught them that not every form factor deserves a September spotlight. The iPhone 18 Pro is the reliable revenue engine. It gets September, it gets the stage, it gets the carrier deals and the trade-in promos and the pre-order now push notifications at 5 a.m. The Fold is the statement piece. It gets December, it gets the holiday window, it gets the look what Apple just did press cycle right when people are spending money they probably shouldn't be spending anyway. If Apple hits that mark, the iPhone Fold could open a new chapter for the lineup without overshadowing the core models that still drive the bulk of sales. And that's the whole game. 2 products, 2 moments, 2 revenue cycles. Apple isn't launching fewer phones, they're launching smarter. The memes about the Fold being delayed will come, they always do, but delayed implies Apple missed a deadline. This looks more like Apple set the deadline and decided it wasn't the right one. The most dangerous thing in product strategy isn't being late, it's being early to a market that isn't ready to pay attention. Catch you next one. Peace.